freaking love this. This is so fun. Everybody should be on the show.
Yeah.
Ty Lopez on Snapchat. And which is, like
And
a
he
lot of people
mentioned-
give Ty a really hard time.
But he helped.
But I gotta say, like, he literally like sparked that. I want to go where I want, when I want. I want to keep growing, and then I want to give. And so it was like get, grow, and give.
What up, y'all? Welcome to the Blazin A Trail Podcast. I'm your host, Tut Kailash, a.k.a. K1. This podcast is designed to equip listeners with a certain mindset and a perspective that can assist them with blazing their own path once they have the proper tools. Today, we switched it up. As you can see, we're in this high-tech facility. I got an SM7B in front of me right now. Today, we are joined by an entrepreneur, a public speaker, college grad, UNL?
Yep.
Let's go. Digital marketer, video producer, the host and owner of the Spark to Fire podcast. Make sure y'all listen. And the CEO of GrindStone Media. Trailblazers, please help me in welcoming Landon Rhodes to the podcast.
Thanks for having me on, bro. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't so early, I would have brought an IPA for you, bro.
Oh, yeah.
Because I know you about
that.
that
Or like
life.
whiskey. We got like whiskey and
I was
vodkas
looking
over
bro.
there too.
You got a nice little inventory.
Yeah,
bro.
I don't know. I'm in like a tequila phase right now, though.
Bro, which kind?
Casamigos. It's the
Bro,
best.
all my homies are on because we used to be Patron.
Yeah.
We tried Termana. Now
Yeah.
Casa.
Termana's pretty good too. That's the Rocks brand.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like Casamigos a lot. The NAO.
Yeah. Thank you
super
for
good.
allowing us to be in your HQ today, bro.
Yeah.
At GrindStone. There are so many people that are asking me to be on a podcast or how to start one. If you're wanting to have your own podcast come to life with high quality audio and visual, make sure y'all go to grindstoneagency.com and go to the podcast tab and tell them Tut sent you.
Yeah.
All
that's
right.
good.
So, Landon, this podcast is about helping people get off of the fence and take a leap of faith to get started on the journey.
Mm-hmm.
So, let's start like this. What is one misconception? What is one misconception that people have about you?
First of all, I want to say like your intro's fire. That was really good. I wish my intros were that consistent.
Yeah.
and concise. That was good.
I have to write it
I
down.
feel like I literally just like sit across people like tell me your life story.
Yeah.
Right now. No, that's one misconception people have about me. I would say probably to the average person, I kind of come off, I would assume a little bit like cold. Like I just
Stern?
like stern, very
Yeah.
like I have very kind of steely eyed type of person where like I look way more
Yeah.
aggressive and mean than I really
Than
am.
you really
Yeah, I think that's a big misconception that people have, and especially like when people join the team, it's funny because like they see
They're
that
like,
first
I
version,
thought you was like
and then they see
this."
that I'm like a real human being, I'm a like, decently nice person.
Because when I first met you, I was like, he looks pretty serious. But then when I got to meet you in your office, I was like, dude, this dude's way different than what I thought.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a lot to offer.
Yeah, thank you.
So being an entrepreneur is hot right now, as you know, right?
Mm-hmm.
But most people don't know what it all entails. What is something that you would tell your younger self before you started or made this agency? What is something that you would tell Landon that's on his laptop in his room before he made this?
Yeah, that's good. Focus on one thing and get really, really, really
You
good
told
at
me
it.
that, bro.
Yeah. I'm trying to take my own advice, right? We're working on this every day at GrindStone of just narrowing down further and further into like what we're really good at and what we can be the best at. Because at the end of the day, people pay more money to specialists than they do generalists.
Hallelujah.
Yeah. So if you're, think of like a neurosurgeon, and so then take it one step further, like a neurosurgeon that only works on people with stage 3 and stage 4 brain cancer.
Exactly.
Like that's a very specific skill set. It's a
Yep.
very specific thing that person does.
Exactly.
And I'm, if I had that, God forbid, if I had that or anybody I know had that, that's the first person we would talk to. We
Exactly.
wouldn't go to a general physician and be like, so what do you think we should do?
Yeah, waste time.
We would
like-
literally go direct to the source, and that's how I
Exactly.
think people should think about business, and that's the advice I wish I would have taken early.
That is good advice because, and it allows you to be separate from everybody else because this is
Yeah.
what you do.
Yep.
Nobody else.
You're out of the commoditized market, right?
Yes.
Because podcasters are commoditized,
Yes.
video producers are commoditized.
Mm-hmm.
So you, like, no matter what you do in a service-based business, there's a good chance like millions of people have already done it, especially,
Yes.
and millions more are going to.
Yes.
So you have to figure out what sets you apart.
Bro, I'm touching an SM7B. But anyways, to fully understand how you got to this point, we got to know where it all started. So like the key moments that led you here. So give the listeners a bit of a background about yourself and childhood experience leading up to middle school.
Up to middle school? Okay.
Yeah.
So I came from a farming family. My mom and dad, grandparents on both sides, all farm.
Yeah.
And so my grandpa on my mom's side still farmed on a cabless tractor until like a few years ago because it's just like how he rolled.
Exactly.
Like,
It works.
Yeah, he just loved being outside and loved farming. So my whole childhood was bouncing around between my mom's house, my mom and dad's house, my grandparents' house, my aunt and uncle's, and like 90% of the time when we would end up there, we'd end up working in some capacity.
Yeah.
And then so work became like my
Since you're
life.
here.
Yeah. Since you're able-bodied, and I would say like up until middle school, then it was just more of just screwing around on the farm. Like I was a pyro kid, dude. Like I would blow stuff up. I made my own fireworks, super illegal. I was like,
He did not do
that. I was all doing all sorts of stuff, but tons of just, I don't know, farm kid stuff. Like just
You're out and about.
Yeah, like
doing
I have
whatever.
power tools. I have all these things, like diesel fuel, like all the things that, children probably shouldn't have, like had access to all of that. Obviously we were safe, but just farm kid stuff, I would say. That was middle school.
Okay, so what were you certain you were going to do as an adult in middle school, and how did that change in high school? So like when you were in middle school, I'm going to be this. And then when you got to high school, you're like,
Yeah. I think no matter what, I was planning on being in agriculture when I was in middle school because that was just like the path, right?
Yeah.
When you spend your whole life doing, so again, farming, like
Yes.
I was on the farm 24/7.
Yeah.
If I wasn't on the farm, I was hanging out with my buddies, playing video games, or I was at my aunt's house.
Yeah.
And so I was basically constantly farming. And so I think that was the only thing I could really see forward. But I would say I had something kind of in the back of my head that I knew I was going to be a little bit different than a lot of my kids like around my area, because they would come home, say from like football practice or something, and they would go straight to like, okay, I'm going to hop in a baler and maybe do some custom harvest or some custom baling. Whereas like that's super common when you're a farm kid. Like, you work with your dad to buy that piece of equipment and you work with
we got to use that.
Yeah. And then you go make money. Or they have like cattle, or like they have a couple, like 5 to 15 cattle as a kid.
Exactly.
That's like common for farm kids. So I was not doing any of that. And I was basically I was a hired hand for my dad for my entire childhood.
Of course.
Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now let's kind of talk about high school. What did you play any sports in high school?
Yeah, all of them. I graduated in a class of 23 people, my graduating class. Yeah. So yeah, I played every sport.
Yeah, they needed
theater. I was in theater, band, played piano for like 7 years. Every sport.
What's the first song you learned on the piano?
Oh man.
Or no, what's your favorite song to play on
Favorite
the piano?
song to play? I don't really remember any of my piano teachings, unfortunately. I think if I pick them back up, like I'll get there.
Yeah.
But I don't remember really anything from that.
Okay, so what is something that you wish you would have done in high school now that hindsight is 2020?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Which I would have done in high school. I think cared about athletics more, and again, like started specializing in something earlier.
Yes.
Kind of figuring out who I was going to be. I think everybody would like to know that as fast as humanly possible, but that's just not how the world works.
Exactly.
So I think understanding who I was going to be. I mean, I've heard stories of people that are like 16, like I'm going to do this.
Yeah,
and
that's why I'm like.
Then like 40 years later, they're literally still doing it. I wish I had that sort of clarity, but I was too spastic to have any of that.
So if I were to ask an old classmate of yours in high school, what do you think Landon will be doing in 10 years? What do you think they would say?
Probably something to do with farming and technology.
Yeah.
And like, I love to build stuff. So I think that's what they would have seen, but man, I don't even know. Cause like I like flipped a 180 when I turned 22. So like No one expected this.
So
Zero
something
people.
switched in your mindset.
Yep.
So okay, when you got so were you in college when you were 22, or did you
Just getting out of college,
Okay.
actually. But we can get to that.
Okay, but did you have doubts about what college would do for you before you even enrolled?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of us have those thoughts, but it's like societal pressures of, hey, if you don't do this, we're going to look at you in a way different light than if you were to.
I was going to go to tech school. So I was going to go to a 2-year tech college to do like diesel mechanics, and probably more around like the stuff, like go straight into technology. Yeah, like rather than taking 2.5 years of math and science classes.
The generals.
The generals. Yeah, I was going to go straight into that, but then I don't know. I mean, my mom and dad kind of said like you should at least look at UNL, and so I did. I found out what a fraternity was, and that was fun. But it's crazy to think that I literally would have gone straight to tech school, and then I have no idea what I would have done. Like my life would be totally different.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you sit, I mean, like when you lay in bed, you're like thinking about certain possibilities that you could have had if you would have like took a different journey, and it's kind of like, I'm so glad I didn't do that. You know?
Yeah.
But what is something that you would have capitalized in college that would benefit you in your adult life, but you didn't execute on it?
Yeah. Just reading. Like I didn't
Same,
read at all.
bro.
I didn't read I didn't fully read my first book all the way through until I was probably 22 or 23. And so, which is crazy because I love reading now.
Yeah.
I absolutely read all the time. So there's hope for you if you haven't started reading yet.
You got time.
I just didn't find anything that like I cared about enough to learn.
Exactly, that you wanted to learn.
The only thing I could think of was maybe like books about war when I was a kid. I just loved learning about history and war. But that was the only thing that could really keep my attention. Because
like To Kill a Mockingbird, I didn't finish that. I went to Spark Notes. There's a lot of books that I did not finish reading because I'm like, why am I reading this? Like I understand the concept, but I'm like, doesn't grab my attention. The first book that I ever read all the way through was Holes.
Dude, I think I might have that in common with you.
Yeah, like that's the only book. I'm like, oh yeah, I love it.
I legitimately think I might have that in common.
Yeah, Stanley.
Because I totally forgot about that book. I love the movie. So
okay, so did you have any idea of what you wanted to do after college? Because I know you said when you turned 22, like something changed for you.
When I got to college, I knew the focus wasn't just going to be farming; it was going to be farming and technology. And so, because I could hop on like my dad's monitor in the seed planter, and like I would literally just be able to like understand it within like a matter
That's
of
crazy.
30 seconds. Like I would just get it. And so when something comes that easily to you,
you got to follow that.
Follow that, right? And so,
yes.
And I think he understood that too. And so I went in all my like tech farming classes, like I aced them in college. Those are the easiest things for me because like I could see how it was going to be facilitated throughout my life instead of just like learning physics. Like, I knew I wasn't going to be making engineering sketches. I knew I wasn't going to be in a lab. So like those were already out for me. So I'm like, mail it in. But when it came to like understanding, like say a good example is like, if there's a grain bin and the grain bin has like 50,000 bushels of grain in it, like I could do the math on understanding if that dries down, how much is it going to shrink? And excuse me.
Bless you. First sneeze on the podcast.
Yeah, first. No. All right, so I'll start that over. For example, like I understood like grain handling, and if someone was going to move 50,000 bushels of grain, and how long would that take them to do it with a 12-inch auger, or what happens if that dries down by 5%, and what actually happens to the volume, like all that weird math that like no one else would need to know except that person. I got really good at understanding that, but then after that point, I was like, okay, technology is really cool, and I had my first drone class. I had a class where all we did was talk about drone, and then drones like aerial drones for agriculture, and the applications of those drones, and like literally felt like a first grade class to me. Super easy. I was just obsessed with it because I remember my professor brought in this $40,000 drone, and I just remember looking at it like, there's no way that's $40,000. And like you hold it and it's even really light, which is a sign of like sometimes a very expensive drone because it's all carbon fiber. And I just remember thinking, I'm like, whatever I do, I want to be around these.
Yeah.
So I want to do more with this because these are super cool. And so that came really easy, and that's when I knew I wanted to go into like ag technology.
Okay. So let's talk about GrindStone. So was GrindStone the first company you ever created, or?
Yeah,
Bro.
It was. Yep.
Congratulations, man.
Yeah.
So what were the action steps? Like, hold on. Let's think about the thought process. What made you even to think about maybe I should start advertising and marketing?
I have a great story about that, actually. So I was working at a tech support job, and my boss. So I posted on the Facebook about this. You might have seen this, but I was at a tech support job, and my job was to answer phones, and then I would have responsibilities around testing equipment, and my job was basically to help farmers with the technology that we had sold them and the hardware. So we basically help farmers remote control pivots from their cell phones. So like stopping and starting pivots, like the ones that giant steel machines that spin around fields from a cell phone.
That's
and like
crazy.
That's all tech, and that's all out there already. And so I learned how to set those up, how to monitor them. I mean, I learned about telecommunications and cell tower hopping, like all this deep nerdy stuff that I just like loved at that time. And at the time, like I was taking tech support calls, and I was like good at my job. Like I loved my job. I was pretty good at it. And I wanted to take the guy's spot that was above me because I just wanted to learn as much as he had. I didn't want to like him to leave, but so I would like, that happened, right? And then at the same time I was going home, and I was listening to Tony Robbins' podcast just because I followed Ty Lopez on Snapchat, and which is, like a lot of people give Ty a really hard time.
But he helped.
But I gotta say, like, he literally like sparked that for me.
He did though.
Yeah.
Not just the garage thing, but just like the books, and then people he would talk about, and I'd be like, who is this?
Yes, exactly. And like one thing that my girlfriend told me, and this is kind of relates more to faith than anything, is that for in like the faith, there's certain pastors that like will get people to just think like for the first time about God and like consider that, maybe that could be for them. And then there's the people that are super deep and nuanced. And like once you're at expert level, these people are still going to fill up your cup and tell you about like what they read inside what the Bible and what God's been telling them. And like Ty for me was one of those early people, right? So like he was very broad level, very flashy, like here in my garage, 1,000 books. The way I got rich was from reading. Like I got it. Right?
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, well, if this dude got rich from reading books, maybe I should try reading books.
Exactly.
Like,
why not?
That was the rationale. So he has a Lamborghini. I don't have one. Maybe I could read and get one. So I just started reading literally. So I followed his Snapchat. I started screenshotting all of his Snapchats where he would post pictures of books. And one of them was Awaken the Giant with Him from Tony Robbins.
Whoa.
And so I read that book cover to cover. That was the first book I ever read at like 22 or 23. And then that started my kind of like reading journey. And meanwhile, I was working my tech support job.
Yeah.
And so I was like reading, I downloaded Think and Grow Rich, which is like a cult classic.
Yeah, it's a cult classic.
Yeah, I like downloaded that and was reading it 3 lines at a time on my web browser from Amazon because you can download the first few chapters. And I remember like clicking the button and it would show 3 new lines. And so I was like a fiend, right? I was reading this stuff, and my my boss came by my office one day, or my desk one day, because we were in cubicles, and she's like, so what are you gonna do when you leave here? And I said, and I was a temp at that time. So I had a 6-month contract. And I'm like, well, I plan on just like coming back and taking Isaac's job eventually, because like that's where I want to be. And and she's like, no, like, what are you gonna do when you leave here? And I was like, am I getting fired? Like I said, that would have not made sense, because I love my job. I had a great relationship with all my coworkers and my bosses. Like, they love me. It was great. And we're still good friends today. And so she's just like, no, like, she said something that really changed the course of my life that like I'll never forget. And I literally owe a percent of like my entrepreneurial success and to the fact that like it happened then to her. And she said, you're not supposed to be in a place like this and work in a place like this.
Yes.
You're supposed to build a place like this.
Exactly.
And she straight up walked away from my desk after that.
Like, she left you with a bomb.
With a bomb. Dropped the bomb on my desk and just walked away. And I literally was just like, what? Like,
Angel in disguise,
yeah, totally. Absolute, like, God encounter, 100%. Something in her told her to say, this kid has a different calling and you need to tell him right now. And but by the way, that is not in the best interest of the company.
Yeah, that is
so
true.
For that reason, I'm not going to say names or whatever, but like that's not exactly a wise idea. Like I was pretty dang good at what I did.
Yeah.
And I loved my job.
Yeah.
But she just saw something, she saw something more in me, which was really cool of her. And I owe her that. I've since gone back and
Shout out to you.
had a conversation with her. Yeah. But anyway, so I left that job about 3 or 4 weeks later because my contract was over. So I didn't know if they were actually ever going to rehire me. Anyway. But anyway, she told me what to do. And so I went and got a job in sales and was basically working sales for a commodity company here in town called Trados. And so they become like my best friends. They were all entrepreneurs, but they worked under a singular bubble. So they're brokers.
Yeah.
And so that's like being an entrepreneur. So they lived their own lifestyle. They each had their own client base. It's kind of like a huge agency.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, so they had very awesome lifestyles, made great money, had amazing, wives and kids, everything. Like they had it going on. And so I was like, okay, well, they are one step closer to me to living this entrepreneurial type lifestyle. I'm going to go hang out with these guys. Yeah. And so I sold for them for about 1 year and 8 months, and I would be out on the road driving around trying to sell this service, which was the idea that we were going to help farmers get a better price for their grain. I was a farm kid. I understand it. So it was a good fit. But I was really bad at it. Like I was horrible at sales, really, really bad. And so I would show up on these guys' doorstep and I would, and sometimes they would show, sometimes they wouldn't. They, they knew they were getting sold to. They didn't like getting sold to. And they're like, this kid's coming here. I'm going to be busy or I'm going to act like I'm gone. And so like I ended up, getting very frustrated with that, thinking I'm like, there's got to be a better way we can freaking get in front of these people. Because right now I'm getting straight denial and they're not even that interested. So I'm cold calling people. They're half committing and I would get there, but then they would ghost basically. And so that started a long-winded way of saying that started my interest into media and marketing. And so I legitimately, like, this is no joke, I Googled what is marketing and like got the most simple explanation. And like, what is digital marketing? And Gary Vee came up and that was like a whole chapter.
You went down that rabbit hole.
I looked so hard. Yeah. I drank the Kool-Aid. Like I literally listened to over 400 episodes of his podcast because all I did every day was drive. I was driving out to meetings, right?
Yes.
So like I actually love that.
2 birds, one stone.
Yeah. So then I had an excuse to just sit on the road, drive, and and I would still do my job, but I was just listening to that podcast.
Hold on, let me listen to 5 more minutes.
Yeah, 100%. I would I'd totally do that. And he had amazing entrepreneurs on the show, and I was just addicted. I was like, this is the life that I want to live. I got to figure out how to do this.
Exactly.
And so that's kind of how that got started.
So if someone were to start the advertising and video production company, what are the things they need to ask themselves first before making that choice? So what were some of the things you had to ask yourself, whether it's what niche? Am I going to go for small companies, big companies?
Yeah.
How am I going to?
I'm going to round out that story just a little bit if that's cool. Because that doesn't actually share much how I started. But what happened was like I started like, we started making videos, right? So I created a video show called The Morning Minute with my buddy Phil Conrad. Phil, if you ever watch this, shout out. And it worked. So we were filming 1 minute per day or 1 to 2 minutes per day of whatever's going on in the commodity markets for corn and soybeans. And then farmers would watch it and be like, this is so helpful because rather than reading like a long report.
Straight to the point.
Straight to the point. It was fun. It was funny. It had charismatic, value to it. Excuse me. And so that was exactly what we did. We made that video series that worked. And then I was able to work with them to basically turn, a percent of their advertising spend into recurring revenue annually for the business. And like that money kept coming back year after year. So that small investment in the beginning was worth every single penny.
Exactly.
And then I'm like, wait a second, like,
why don't I just do this?
I can do this. And so, and then I learned about video first and became like obsessed with video because I thought, and I knew that video was the way that we could turn, we could make better creative to make the ads work better. And set us apart. So that's how it got started. And then I left May of 2018 to start GrindStone full time.
Boom, boom.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Man.
Yep.
So if I had $1,000 and say I'm starting a video production team. What should I buy, market, or like invest in? What are like the non-negotiables that I should get?
That's $1,000. Okay.
Yeah, see?
I had 12,000 to start, and that was not enough.
So like, cause like, I wouldn't advise if you're doing
have
a contract work, don't do it on the phone. You know?
No.
Try lensrentals.com or something like that. But go ahead.
Yeah, I think if you've got $1,000, you need to ask yourself the question, why do I only have $1,000?
Yeah.
It's like, I understand like if people are balling at a budget, but the reality is, if however you got that $1,000, you need to stick it out longer or go find another job. In my personal opinion,
Work that job
to get a little bit more cash, because like at the end of the day, you have to survive, and you can't survive off $1,000 for more than 1 to 2 months, maybe.
Yeah.
So you need to be able to survive, and I would say figure out a way that you can, work a job while still building up some sort of recurring revenue cash. So that could be,
That's what I tell people all the time.
yeah, that could be running social media for a small business. And like, you don't have to charge $5,000 a month. Like,
Yeah.
you can go in there and say, look, I'm going to manage all of your social media for $250 to $500 a month. And if you get 10 of those contracts,
Bro, you said.
like that's 60,000, that's 30 to 60,000 a year. And so you could easily do that. So that would be my recommendation first, is you need to take care of yourself and your living expenses first before you make any big investments into a business. Like, you got to be taking
You hear that? Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I would recommend, is don't start a business if you only have $1,000, because it's going to take way longer than you think. It always takes longer than you think. And then B, like, you want to be able to not be so aggressively needy when you get in front of that first client.
Exactly.
You want to actually be able to be like,
you.
I can survive without this person. You have to have that mentality going in.
Okay. So what challenges did you have to overcome at the beginning of starting GrindStone?
Challenges I had to overcome. I would say, good question. You're going to have to cut out the dead silence.
No, I like that. Because they're going to be thinking too.
I would say biggest challenge when I got started was, the first challenge is always cash flow, right? So I was burning money every day, just being alive, right? I didn't have that much money to begin with. So my first concern was, how do I get a contract that can actually pay my way, that can pay my bills? And so I was just out on the hunt for finding whatever deal I could find, and I was willing to do just about anything media related to get that. And that's why, like, in the beginning, sometimes you can't be picky.
Exactly. You got to take what you can.
So you have two options. You can either not be picky about your niche and take any work that comes in, which is like the referral arm of our business still takes in a broad range of work. But what I would say is, establish like that referral track where business is coming in from all over the place, and you're like, okay, how can I monetize whatever these people want?
Exactly.
Then there's the other side of your business, which is, I'm going after this very specific customer. We're selling this very specific thing, and we're solving this very specific problem. You need to get clear on what all of those things are, because at the beginning I didn't do that. And I would say that was one of the biggest challenges we had. Like I said earlier, like focus.
Yeah.
The niche down focus to say, I'm going to go after this style of customer, or I'm going to solve this very specific problem. And then that's what I'm going to make all of my marketing about. That's what all my messaging is going to say. Because what happens is you start being all things to all people, and you will get business. Like you will capture some of the market, but then you're going to be commoditized, and that is a long-term not good situation.
Yeah. So you got 14 team members now.
Yeah, that's right.
So when hiring people to be on the squad, what were the non-negotiables that the candidate had to have in order to keep a great work culture?
Yep, it's easy. So at the beginning, we didn't have core values listed out, but now we do. And core values are something.
Is it inspire?
Does it go, improve.
Improve.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and so the first book I ever read again was Tony Robbins' Waking the Giant Within, and one of the biggest concepts that I took away from that book is the concept of CANI, which is constant and never-ending improvement.
Okay.
And so that's why improve is our acronym that we remember. So it's almost like a sixth.
Yeah.
But so we keep that as kind of our remembrance of how our core values work. Like, if you're not growing, you're dying.
Yeah.
So ours is integrity, mindset, professionalism, relationships. O is ownership. V is vitality, and E is excellence.
Ooh.
So all of those things are what we hire and fire and promote based upon.
Okay.
So like if you're displaying high degrees of those core values, you are going to move up in this company. Like it's almost this like subconscious thing that I don't even think about.
Yeah.
But when I see that happening, I just automatically like I'm drawn to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as soon as, I talked about this in the consulting module that I'm filming right now, is you have to get very clear about what you want and what you don't want in life.
Yeah.
Like the reticular activating system, have you heard that
Yes.
before? So the RAS, for anybody that hasn't heard of that, it's called the reticular activating system. It's in the basal ganglia part of your brain. And what it does is it focuses on, like, it basically forces your subconscious to focus on everything that you think about.
Exactly.
And so your subconscious will, if you show your subconscious something and you say, this is what we're looking for, it will absolutely go and find it. And so a good example would be after you buy, say, like a white Honda.
I'm going to see white Hondas.
You're going to see white Hondas everywhere. But before that, you would just see them every now and then. It wouldn't really stick out to you. So I knew I wanted a Tesla like 5 years ago.
You got a Tesla?
No, I don't have one yet.
Yeah.
But I knew I wanted one.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm going to have a Tesla.
Yeah.
And so I got, and like this is some hardcore wiring into my brain that I did, where I would physically wake up in the morning, I would imagine myself driving a Tesla, and I would force my brain to like basically do theater of the mind, if you will, and think very specifically about what my life is going to look like. I have notes in my phone, vision board, all that stuff. And what's crazy is like once you've kind of like put that software into your brain, it remembers it. Yeah. And so like my RAS, like it will not miss a Tesla on the road. I will not see it.
I see that.
Like it is like a very subconscious, like, oh, there it is.
Yeah.
It's a Model S, Model X, Model Y. Like I literally, I know what it is. It's creepy almost. But so what I would say is, get very specific about what you want, and that's what the core values do.
Exactly.
Because they'll drive away the people that you don't.
Exactly. That's your compass as a company.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And one thing that I really love about core values too is that once the people in the company start basically showing those core values and they start living those core values, they will automatically push the people out of the company that are not a fit.
Exactly.
It's like weird.
They'll be uncomfortable.
They are uncomfortable. I've seen it happen. And so one of my business mentors out of Nashville, he talked about this. He's like, when we started hiring people rapidly, these people were underperforming, and they would come into my office and they're like, I don't know what to do. I think I'm not a fit here. And he's just like, there it is.
Yeah.
Our culture is fixed because now our culture is so specific and so dialed in that these people know what the culture is, and they're finding themselves outside of the circle.
Yeah.
That's valuable.
Yes.
Right. So, and core values for, relationships that you want to be in, people that you want to be around, how you want your business to be, all of that relates.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Okay. So being the co-host and the owner of Spark the Fire, tell the people what Spark the Fire is about, and what episode should listeners check out. What's your favorite episode that people should check out?
Yeah. So Spark the Fire is a show about entrepreneurs who basically took the leap. So I have a lot of people on that have taken that leap, and they have made this huge company. And what it really is about is helping people find their spark to fire moment, if you will, where they make a very clear decision to go and change their life for the better. And so what I do is I unpack those people's lives and kind of go back to that moment of like, why did you do that?
Exactly.
And it's super interesting because it gets into personal development, entrepreneurship, it gets into books they recommend, and just their life story, because their stories are fascinating. And so my favorite episode, and probably always will be, is episode number 1 with Joey Hausman.
Joey.
Yeah. So, he went through a really, really tragic time, and that's all I'm going to say about the episode. But
go check it out.
He went through a really tragic time, is now very, very, very successful. And so my recommendation is check that out, because that is probably one of the most life-changing episodes on the show.
Yeah, me and my girl were watching the one with the nail net guy.
Oh, Jeff's amazing. Yeah. I love Jeff.
She was like,
Jeff Nordhook is such a stud.
Yeah, like,
love that dude.
His story too is just, there's a lot of guests on there. I was like, he's on like episode 40 something or even further, but it's like, you have so many people on there that are giving gems. And if you're listening to this podcast, I highly recommend that you guys go check out Spark the Fire.
Thanks, dude.
All right. So what podcast equipment did you start with before having this R2-D2 looking camera?
They do look like that. Yeah. So I started off with, I had a production company first before I had a podcast. So like GrindStone was the production company arm of the business. So I had a Sony A7S II with G Master glass on it, 24-70 G Master glass on it. And that was great. I mean, that was like the crispest, most clear picture you can get. Like, it's great in low light. It's great in everything. So that was my first camera. And then from a mic standpoint, I bought an AT40, which was still in our office today. It's a phenomenal.
The Audio-Technica?
Yeah, Audio-Technica AT40 or AT44. And that is still one of my favorite mics because mics are interesting because they each have a different sound to them.
Exactly.
So this is going to have a very different sound than that AT40, but that doesn't mean that that's wrong or right. It's just different. So I started off with that, which is like a couple $100, and then the camera was obviously very expensive at the time. I mean, that I maxed out a credit card to get that camera. So that's what I got there, and then I had a Scarlett
interface
preamp. Yeah, and that came as a recommendation from my friend who actually recorded with Lord and Lady Gaga and all these great people when they're doing their preamps for their SM7Bs. They had the Scarlet Red preamp, and I was like, okay, well, if that's the standard and that's what I'm going to grow into,
I'm gonna do it.
I'm going to have that. And that's funny because the mic that they use to talk to us in the studio now is the AT44 and that first Scarlet. So it's actually in there.
Yeah, I saw it. You have two of them.
Yeah, and so we've had that for 4.5 years now, and it's just worked perfectly.
Yeah. Okay. So how do you prepare for a show?
Yeah. So a lot of my research is I get to know the person via just like researching them online. And, it can take anywhere from 20 minutes to a couple hours depending. And I could probably be better at this part of it, but I also am just a very curious person. Yeah. So a lot of my stuff, like I love how you have your questions posed. They're very good. I think that mine is much more
free flowing. I like that though. Flowing. Sometimes I feel like with some questions, I skip over them because it's not fitting the situation, so I just skip over it. So I like going off the cuff.
The one thing you'll find with yours, though, is that the audience will value yours higher because you have more bites. So like your 20 or 30 second clips that they, like nuggets that they can pull from the show.
I clip that.
Everyone is looking for something that they can. This is the best example I've heard. Everyone is looking for something that's going to make them look intelligent in front of their friends when it comes to sharing podcasts. If I share a podcast with you or a clip with you that changes your life, you're going to credit that back to me as the person that told you about it. And that's just like how humans are. We want to help people, right? And then like if you help someone, like you would like the credit for helping that person. So what you do is you don't actually make content clips that you like. You make content that is shareable that other people can then send to their friends and say, hey, I thought about you today and this could be helpful.
Exactly.
Yeah. So do that, by the way. It works really well. That works really well.
So what is one podcast interview question that you love to ask? Or do you have one?
Yeah, I would say if you could go back and talk to your 21-year-old self or the you that was right before you started your business, what would you tell yourself? And what would you tell yourself to avoid?
Damn.
Yeah. That's probably one of my favorites. And then also, what books changed your life is my second favorite question.
Okay. Hell yeah. Let's talk about your life. How has being an entrepreneur affect your personal life, social life?
It's been amazing. I mean, like it was super hard in the beginning.
Yeah.
I was telling my sister this the other day. Like if I would have met my girlfriend in the first 2 years of starting my company, I probably wouldn't have a girlfriend anymore.
Yeah.
Like dude,
girlfriend or the company.
Yeah. Well, and like that's a lot of people probably don't talk about this a lot, but that's a very real reality of owning a business at the very beginning, especially if like you want something much more for yourself.
Yes.
You either have to get really good at boundaries at the very beginning with business or like I didn't have boundaries.
Yeah.
Like my boundaries were GrindStone is taking over everything.
Yeah.
And like it's first and everything else is second.
Yep.
I do not recommend that. It's
Yeah.
just what I thought I had to do
Mm-hmm.
to make this happen. And so like I fell in love with my work. I wasn't like miserable or anything.
Yeah.
I loved what I was doing, but I mean, like I definitely like sold out on this business. Like,
Yeah.
I gave it everything that I had. And I mean, relationships fell down.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like even stuff with like family, I wasn't at as many family events. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like that's not fun. I'm not proud of that, but that is a reality of what that happened.
Very much so.
So what I would say is just keep that in mind, that if you
Boundaries.
are dead serious about starting this business, you either have to be very good at boundaries from the very beginning, or you won't have any.
Yeah.
And the business will take everything.
I agree.
Yeah.
What do you shoot for? Happiness or like fulfillment?
Fulfillment.
Say.
Yeah. Happiness is fleeting a lot of times. So
like I'm happy a lot of the times throughout the day.
I was
But
really,
I'm also
I was
other
really
emotions.
unhappy yesterday, but I woke up this morning fulfilled. So like, my last part of my day was genuinely like kind of unhappy, but then like I go through phases where I'll be happy or unhappy. But then one thing that never changes is that this is fulfilling work. And the day it stops
Exactly.
becoming fulfilling work, you will not see me doing it.
Yeah.
That's just how it is.
Facts.
Yeah.
What does success mean to Landon?
The pursuit of the highest version of yourself and freedom. I would say like that's
it's internal success.
Yeah,
like,
my buddy Brandon and I talked about this the other day or a couple weeks ago, where I'm like, so why? I don't know why I asked him this, because we're like friends. We know this about each other already, but I don't know why I asked him this question. I'm like, so why are you doing all this? Like, why are you working so hard? Because he's total grinder, like works super hard. And I think he boiled it down to, I want to go where I want, when I want. I want to keep growing, and then I want to give. And so it was like get, grow, and give.
Yeah,
and
I was like that.
Really simple. Like get what I want, grow as much as I possibly can, and give it all away, or give as much as I possibly can. Because you can't pour from an empty cup. So
that's exact. Like we're about to have a shirt coming out for Yedo that pretty much explains that.
I need some merch, by the way.
Yeah, because a lot of the times when the reason why I started Yedo was for myself. Just like, this is my framework, and if it helps you, it helps you. But I'm like, you got to know that you are the one, right?
Yep, you are the one.
But at that time, I was helping out my family. I was strung out, had to pay financially, go give this person a ride to and from work, to school, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, bro, I don't have time for myself. So I had to put those boundaries and be like, okay, I have to be good within myself first before I can give to anybody else.
Yep.
I can't give from any lack, you know?
Yeah.
So I have to be good in order for you to be good.
That's good.
You know? So have boundaries, y'all. And that's why I asked you that question of happiness or fulfillment, because fulfillment is always going to be a compass. Like my compass is my virtues of like being honest, integrity, those things. Like if I shoot for those things, I'm always going to progress and improve as a person.
Yeah.
Like if I'm shooting for an external achievement, I'm always going to feel unfulfilled, because like I got it, but now what? Unless it's like, okay, become more honest person every day.
Yeah.
Be more tell the truth every day. Like that's really what I've been about these last couple of months, is just telling the truth, even when it's hard, because my girlfriend's like, you're too much of a people pleaser. And she's like, you need to have boundaries and tell people no. But I'm so used to telling people yes because I want to help.
Yeah.
But it's like, empty cup. I have to be good within myself.
Yeah.
And then not be resentful when I'm helping you with whatever you're doing.
That's real. Yeah, that's something you have to get over. Yeah, 100%. Like you have to figure that out.
Yeah.
Because that will destroy you.
And it has.
I'm like speaking from experience. So yeah.
Who are the three most influential people in your growth for business?
I would say if I could, I want to put my parents as like
they're
for
parent.
sure.
Yeah.
They're like that would the number one people on earth. I would say it's
tough.
It's really hard.
I'll give you 5.
Yeah, it's definitely like, I mean, I talk to God like he's sitting across from me in this podcast studio. So
yes.
I would say, God, my parents,
first, yep.
and I mean, Dude, that's so hard because I have like 100.
A lot of mentors, a lot of teachers.
I would say, honestly, my girlfriend, Megan, she's been just monumental in shifting my mindset and my growth, like from the last 12 months.
And understanding.
Yeah, and increased empathy. I mean, all of that. I've changed as a person in the last 6 months, so I definitely owe a lot of that to her.
Yin and yang, man.
Yeah.
Girls really settle you down, bro. And a lot of, they're like, "Tell you do this." And I'm like, "Don't point that out." Don't point, because like, okay, I didn't know that was a problem, but every time I tell her, "Tell me when I'm doing this or being like that," and I'm like, "Damn, thank you for being there.
Yeah.
I hate that you told me that, but thank you for helping me become a better person today."
Yeah,
man. What are your hobbies outside of GrindStone? What are some things that Landon likes to do?
I feel like my hobby side of my life just completely fell off the face of the earth.
Reading books.
So like reading, but everything I read is always business related. So I can't say that that's even. I mean, it's a hobby of mine, but at the same time, it's like
it's already
I have a very clear purpose of why I'm reading that book, and it's not for fun.
Yeah,
I mean, it is because like fun. Winning is more fun than fun is fun. Like I want to win more than I want to have fun, I would say. So I'm constantly in this kind of mode of self-improvement.
Yes.
And I think that becomes a hobby in itself. And then I would say like just the stuff that's like mindless, weightlifting.
I was just going to I was going to say weightlifting, yeah.
Weightlifting's big. Then I don't know. Like I actually love video games. I haven't played video games in over a year.
I always itch to do it, but then I'm like,
games.
I got to do this.
Yeah, I've kind of like not given myself that fun there. But I absolutely like nerd out.
I love video games.
I love Skyrim. Anything
RPG?
Like medieval.
You like RPG games?
Yeah, anything like medieval. Like I was a complete
Assassin's
nerd.
Creed?
Yes, actually a little bit,
really,
but not as much. But yeah, like I absolutely love video games too.
What are 3 things we should know about you that we did not touch on?
Wow, that's a really good question. I'm gonna have to think on that for a second. That we did not touch on.
Got any weird quirks or
weird quirks?
It could be anything, something that people don't know about you. Do you like listening
really
to Dixie Chicks?
I do really good impressions. I'm like love doing impressions.
I'm not gonna put you on the spot. If you want to do it, you go ahead.
I did a Matthew McConaughey video this morning and sent it to my buddy Alex. Literally, so like there's a certain point of like when your voice is like just perfect for doing impressions. And I hit my peak today with Matthew McConaughey impressions. So that's
Did you save it?
That's one. I did save it. Yeah, we can play it. It was based off of the scene in Wolf of Wall Street when he's talking like to Hector and he's asking this guy Hector to go get him martinis. Absolute martinis. Have you seen that movie?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's like, here's the game plan, Hector. You're gonna get us 2 more absolute martinis. And approximately 7.5 minutes later, you're gonna get us 2 more absolute martinis.
I remember that.
Yeah. So I did that video in like a way to my buddy Alex this morning. So impressions, I think, is one that very few people know. Only my close friends know that. And then, man, what else?
I saw that on the website.
Yeah, right? More people. So you know what's so funny? You wouldn't believe how many people actually read those bios. I had a future client and a bunch of people that I know reached out to me and like, hey, I read this about you and I just love this. Like, this is super cool. So highly recommend that if you guys, from a business perspective, real quick, if you're going to have you have a business and you have people on your team, like put fun bios that people will actually enjoy.
Exactly. Not so serious.
It's so big for relatability and like they remember you.
Exactly.
So I would say impressions are the number one thing. Second would be, I talked about my faith a lot probably on this episode, but very faith-filled person, like filled with Holy Spirit. Like, absolutely.
I look at your stories, it'll be a quote.
And, I talk to God like he's sitting across from me in a cafe.
It's the homie.
Yeah. I would say, and then that just like family is above everything related to business now. Whereas like, I realized that got out of whack when I started my company, but that's always been,
that's your baby.
I'll throw it all away for family at the end of the day.
Sure.
Because it's just, that always comes first.
Yeah. Rapid fire questions. It doesn't really have to be rapid fire if you can't do it, okay? What social media influencer is absolutely killing it right now?
Ooh. Taylor Welch.
Taylor Welch.
Taylor Welch.
I'm going to have to write that down.
Yeah, so he's a guy that started a marketing and consulting business in Nashville, and his Twitter is honestly like the greatest thing. It's my number one source of entertainment.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah, and he'll change your life. Like, reading that he's on another level. So honestly, he's my favorite out of everybody. Totally underground, probably for 99% of people, but
yeah,
but he's super good. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna check that out. If you could say one thing from your house right now, what would it be?
One thing from my house?
Yeah.
I have a new NLT Bible that I just bought. Like, I would have to have that. Like, that's gonna solve all my other problems. So I think that's it.
It's like the Book of Eli.
Yeah, like that's. I'm like I need that. You know, everything else I can re-get, but I would say that would be the number one thing.
LT. Is that what you
NLT.
NLT, the
New Living Translation.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I would get.
Okay. Are you more of a creative person in the morning or night?
Morning, it's not even close. Yeah.
Like, I try and be a creative person at night, not happening.
I have spurts, right?
Same.
Like, well, they'll hit me, and I will absolutely go to my dungeon and start drawing
Just
on the walls.
whip it out.
Yeah, like I have poster board all over those like giant rip-off sticky notes. I will just like go to town and writing for hours at a time on
Once
those.
you get the ball rolling.
Yeah, but morning, I do all my podcasts in the morning. I try to, and it's just my high energy time.
I love it. Your latest purchase that wasn't smart.
Wasn't smart. That's a good question. Latest purchase that wasn't smart. I literally don't buy a lot of dumb stuff, so I have to think about this for a second.
It could be a
I feel
grocery
like
item.
I'm a very practical person. But, wasn't smart.
Like, damn.
I'm struggling with this. I really.
Yeah, a lot of people that I've asked.
I'm in like
question,
conservation mode right now too, where I'm like dumping everything back in the company.
You think about it. You tell me one time.
Yeah, go to another one. I'll have to think about that.
Okay, if you had let's say this. If you had a Tesla, what would you name it? And what color would you like? What color interior? What model?
Oh, okay. It'd be a Tesla 2022 model. It's a Roadster, and it would be
super fast.
It would be like black with black rims, completely murdered out. Yeah.
Even the inside?
Inside would be white interior, like cream.
Like that's like
that's my Bond villain car. Yeah, I need that. Yeah, that'll happen. That's the one that I have in my vision board, and I think about it. And then I have a white one with all black interior too. That's really cool.
What is your best feature?
Best feature, like character trait or
anything,
hair or beard,
anything, because your beard is fine.
No, I would say that like I do have a good heart when like that, like I care about people really deeply. For sure, I may not like come off like that all the time, but I really I have big heart when it comes to
appreciate. Just
that. Like I want to protect people that can't protect themselves. I would say is a pretty big character trait that I have.
What have you done that you are most proud
of? Honestly, I would say starting a company would be the thing I'm the number one most proud of, because
and I'm proud of you, bro.
Thank you. It is the source of happiness and joy that I don't think I could have gotten anywhere else. Yeah, like there's no other place I could work that would ever give me this level of fulfillment, because everything is so. I mean, it's all on you. Literally. So like everything that's horrible, it's a dichotomy. Like everything that's bad is all your fault, but then everything that's right is all your fault too.
I'd rather it be that way.
Yeah, like I heard my sister say the other day, she's like, I can't believe I get paid to do this. I'm just like, that is the coolest thing I've ever done. That's like if that's why I started this company, and for you to be able to say that on a consistent basis, like I've won. I won. Like, that's it. Yeah.
I'm winning.
Yeah.
If you what song could you sing on stage with your favorite band or musician that you know word for word?
Um,
Any genre.
Any genre.
Any musician or
I'm going to go with the one I heard this morning. Oh, no, that's not it. If It Means a Lot to You by A Day to Remember.
Day to Remember?
A Day to Remember. If it means a lot to you. Yeah, I still want to like learn that on guitar and like sing it because it's my jam.
I'm a hype person, so Travis Scott.
Okay.
Butterfly Effect. I'll
Oh
go.
yeah,
like if he was like, I'm like, let's go.
I'm gone. I got it.
I'm like,
That's a
bro,
great
just go sit
question.
down.
I love that question.
Yeah.
It tells you so much about a person.
Yes. So, if a movie was made about your life, what genre would it be?
It would be probably like I would say like a documentary, and it would be very much of like the story of building the business. So whatever that would be, probably like action thriller type of, but also documentary style. Probably not thriller. That's not a good word for it, but just, I don't know. I'm blanking on genres right now.
Yeah.
Whatever like documentary that denotes someone building something and like going through all the ups and downs. I would say that would be it.
All right, cool. Last question. Did you enjoy your time on Blazin A Trail Podcast?
I freaking love this. This is so fun. Everybody should be on the show.
Yeah.
That's super good.
Yeah.
You ask great questions, really. And I know people that ask great questions, and I was very impressed with this.
Thank you. You have any questions for me or my team that's not here?
Yeah. What is the goal of this podcast in the next year? Like
next year?
What do you want this podcast to do for you and for other people in the next year?
Well, I wanted to go more on a live setting. So, you know how they do young professionals at Capital City?
Yeah, YP. Yep.
I want to do it for the young people, and I want to have, like, let's say you come on, right? And it'll kind of be kind of podcasty, but not. And it'll be like you having kind of like a presentation on actually how to start a media agency and give actionable steps.
Yeah.
Because when I was young, if I had that, I would go to these events.
Yeah.
So I've been talking to some people that I know, like Matthew Wagner at Turbine Flats, to make this a possibility to start doing that for like the Center for Entrepreneurship, and the same for people at Westland. So this is what I want to do
Like
with
a
the
clinic
podcast.
almost. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good.
And interactive, where people out there can ask the questions, so I don't always have to ask the questions.
I really like that idea.
Yeah.
And have it with cool branding, like not fireside, because I think Engler already does a fireside, but do some sort of like bonfire or something like that. Where it's like it's a conversation.
Exactly.
Because you're really good at asking questions.
Yeah.
So if you put you on stage with the person,
Exactly.
and then people can do Q&A at the end, like I would 100% attend that.
See, and then I would also have like small vendors, whatever they're doing, and then have them. It'll be like a networking event at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then we'd have the presentation. And then have an artist, whether it be a painter or an actual live musician, perform.
Yes. Dude, you should do that.
Yeah.
I would 100%.
Because like, I think, like Lincoln, we don't have a lot of things going on, but we have a lot of potential. We have a lot of skilled, smart people that can entertain. So I'm just trying to bring that, you know? So that's what I have in mind for the podcast. Because like with certain people, I can't talk to them about certain things, and it kind of just like rubs me wrong when I want to have conversations. But it's like, yo, they're running like big ass companies, you know? So like I want to have free flowing conversations like we are now, and not have like restraints or anything like that. Like we could talk about COVID.
Right.
And all the sketchy things or anything like that. I want to talk about that kind of thing.
Got it. Open forum.
Exactly.
Less guarded.
Yeah. Because like I feel like I box myself into doing certain things, but it's like, okay, I can run the show in whichever way I want.
You're the talent. Yeah. You're the talent. You can do whatever you want. So that's if it has a core purpose and it's got a vision and a mission attached to it, and figure out a way that you can like maybe donate proceeds to the artist.
That's exactly what we're gonna do.
Yeah, I would absolutely be a part of that. Like I think that's a super smart idea. I love the mix of a networking with fireside and the live performance.
Exactly,
because that keeps them staying around.
And that's a community right there. So it's like this person who, let's say Nelson, my camera guy, he's filming the event, And now this vendor is now talking to Nelson because he wants a video done, or they actually come to you because you just presented, or I need some art done on our wall at GrindStone or something like that.
Yeah.
You know? So I'm just trying to create a creative community. So that's what I want, because I see the creative arts are what's going to push humanity forward, whether it is video, whether it is audio, whatever the Bay's doing, you know? So I'm just trying to foster that community.
I love it.
Yeah.
I think you should absolutely pursue it.
You got anything to promote?
I would just say GrindStone. Yeah. So we obviously work with tons of businesses in Lincoln, but we do video podcasting. We do media buying, websites, and strategy are our 5 core businesses. And really we solve the problem specifically for small businesses. And we work with a lot of blue collar businesses. So that's manufacturing, agriculture, and construction. If you're in any of those niches, anything related to those niches, reach out to us. We'd be more than happy to sit down with you and just kind of see how we can work together.
Beautiful. Where can people find you?
Yeah, my Instagram is probably the most engaged. Facebook and Instagram, and it's just Landon Rhodes on Facebook, and then the Instagram is Life of Landon.
Ooh, I like that.
And so yeah, you can find me there.
All right. Well, thank you, brother.
Yeah, dude, this is good.
Yeah. Okay, I would like to thank y'all for listening to Blazin' Trail Podcast. Remember to leave a review, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment about what you learned about Landon. And if you want to have your own podcast and want to have the highest quality, make sure to go to grindstoneagency.com. All right. Make sure to follow us on Blazin' Trail Podcast. I forgot to promote my own.
You need to.
Yeah, on Instagram. Shout out to KZUM 89.3 FM radio station and GrindStone Media Agency for allowing us to be here today. Do not compare your journey to somebody else's. As you can see, we're walking different paths. So don't be so hard on yourselves, because life already is. To make a change, always start with yourself, because you're the one. So make it happen.
I love it. So good. So good.
Man.